Welcome back. The debacle between ArcelorMittal and Kumba Iron Ore continues, with members of Parliament on Friday giving Arcelor a grilling over its steel pricing. Meanwhile, Kumba has defended itself against accusations by former Deputy Director General in the Department of Mineral Resources, Jacinto Rocha, that it stabbed Arcelor in the back by applying for its mineral rights at Sishen Iron Ore even before Arcelor had lost them. Rocha, who is now a mining consultant, joins me now in studio. Jacinto, thanks very much for coming into the studio today. Well, this story seems to be taking a new turn every week. Kumba itself has accused you of having a personal interest in justifying why the department granted those prospecting rights to Imperial Crown Trading and overruling a recommendation that those rights be turned down.
I think those who know how government operates know that a decision-making government does not take decision on the basis of personal interest. If Kumba is using this to argue against the facts that I've presented, so be it. Number two, a recommendation is not there to be overruled. Those who know how to take decisions, they know that recommendations are there to be presented to the decision maker, and a choice is given to the decision maker, whether to go with the recommendation or to go against the recommendation. You overrule a decision, not a recommendation.
Well, why was ICT given these rights, these prospecting rights in the first place?
I think as to why it was given, it would not be proper for me at this stage as an official outside the department to argue as to whether the decision was right or wrong. There is a court process going on now. The department will deal with it. What I've presented in my article that came out last week was that although Kumba was going around complaining about the way in which it was treated, Kumba itself is not an angel. And this is what I'm trying to emphasize, that on the 30th of April last year, Kumba went to Kimberley, Kumba went to Pretoria, and requested two junior officials to change the date stamp on a stamp. In other words, they said, do not reflect today's date, the 30th of April, on our application, reflect tomorrow's date, the 1st of May 2009.
What difference would a day make?
It makes a difference because I think it is an ethical issue. Let's give an example of CNBC, where you would have a stamp where someone from outside influences an employee of CNBC to change the date stamp so that their application is treated favorably. It is significant in the sense that had the decision makers known that Kumba had lodged the application on the 30th of April, it would have consequences to Kumba in terms of the acceptance of the application. But also, apart from that, it creates a problem for a major mining company, where that major mining company influences officials to tinker with an administrative tool so that it reflects that the application that came in today reflects a date of the future.
Well, of course, Kumba denies that it did anything wrong there. But can I just ask you how prospecting rights can be granted over a mine that has been mining minerals for over 50 years?
Okay. So Kumba will not admit at this stage. So the fact that Kumba is denying does not detract from the fact that Kumba representatives went to the department on the 30th. They have not denied that. If you look at the court paper submitted by Kumba, you'll find it there. So the denial does not detract from the fact. Now, as to whether a prospecting right can be granted over a mine, I think one has to distinguish between a mining right and a mine. The Act prohibits the granting of a prospecting right over an existing mining right. It also prohibits the granting of a mining right over an existing prospecting right, mining right, whatever right. You can look at Section 16 and you can look at Section 22. Now, what people have been confusing is that we all have accepted that the 21.4% that was held by ArcelorMittal had ceased to exist, which then meant that the 21.4% became available. Kumba itself recognized that fact. It applied for the...
Before it actually became available?
Yeah. Kumba itself recognized that fact because it applied for the 21.4%. If it was not available, Kumba would not have applied. So it was the availability of what ArcelorMittal did not claim that opened the opportunity for both Kumba and ICT and anybody else to come and apply. So it is not the existence of the mine. If the rights were held 100%, then yeah, it was blocked. And this is what happened, would have happened until the 30th of April last year.
And obviously ICT saw a gap and took it.
ICT saw a gap, and ICT and Kumba.
Do we need more clarity on our mining legislation, though? Because we had a similar case about 2 weeks ago when the department told Lonmin to stop selling associated minerals from its mines. Of course, it has since rescinded on that, except for one small part of those mines. New mining legislation doesn't cover associated minerals. Do we need more clarity?
No,
because
there is no need for more clarity. See, one thing that I've noticed is every time mining companies find themselves on the wrong side, they blame government. And then the media follows through with that. If you go to Section 5, Section 5 says, no person may prospect or mine for any mineral without the necessary authorization. And I'm paraphrasing it, without the necessary authorization. Lonmin knew that it had rights to PGM, that it did not have the rights to chrome. So the only thing that they had to do, which they then did in December last year, was to apply and include the chrome rights in the PGM rights that they didn't have. Now, as to the fact that in the old legislation dealt with it, Section 5 of the repealed legislation, Minerals Act, created a facility, not an entitlement. It said that any person who has is a hold of a right, if by necessity they have to exploit other minerals for which they are not entitled to, they have to pay compensation to the holder of that right. So there was a recognition that there is a holder, but the state then intervened and created a facility. Now, the history of that case, there is a well-known case in the mining sector called the Trojan case, which in 1986, if I'm not mistaken, it was a matter between Trojan Exploration and Rustenburg Platinum Mine, a subsidiary of Anglo Platinum, where Rustenburg Platinum Mines held the rights to PGMs, and Trojan Exploration had the rights to base minerals. Rustenburg Platinum Mines was exploiting everything. Trojan then took the matter to court, lost at the High Court, but won on appeal. Though the Minerals Act then intervened when it was passed to address the challenge by creating a facility. So there was nothing wrong in terms of the actions that the department took. If the law says you can only drive with a driver's license, and you are found wanting, you cannot then say the law is not clear or I didn't know. There is a concept that says ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Nevertheless, though, the events of the past few weeks must have undermined confidence in our mining sector by international investors, and that's not good. We do need to have level playing fields and a clear playing field for all players.
I think it is the role of South Africans, both those of us who know the law and the media, to explain the reality. Oftentimes, we tend to go to the foreign investors as if the foreign investors do not hear from us. They hear it from us. If we express lack of confidence, we are going to pass them lack of confidence. But when we see things that we don't understand, we stop, ask questions about it, and then explain. Instead of getting involved in insinuations, then the foreign investors will say, oh, this is a crazy country. But if we are able to explain to them that this is how the system works, a person who has rights to PGM is only entitled to exploit PGMs. Unfortunately, it then creates an opportunity for someone who sees the opportunity for chrome to come and apply. But if we explain, the issues are going to become clear, and it is our role as experts, and I think also as journalists, to explain to the public how does the system works. It creates technical challenges, but I think one should not create a cloud of suspicion over the law. It does create technical problems, but there are no legal challenges.